Hey guys, good morning everyone. Welcome back to Get After It. Today I have the pleasure of introducing to you Mr. Lorenzo Mercado. Lorenzo is a pediatric nurse in the San Francisco Bay Area. He's been an expert in this field for the last decade, but has recently found a burning passion for real estate investing and building wealth through real estate. Lorenzo is 31 years old and also just started a podcast called The Lowdown, which you guys should check out, and you can find it on all the major platforms. So without further ado, let's get after it. Welcome to the show, Lorenzo. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks, Johnny. Thank you for having me on. I'm really excited to be here. So yeah, I'm ready to bring some value to everyone who's listening.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for getting on early. I know you're West Coast, I'm East Coast, so you must be an early riser.
Yeah, every day, honestly, I wake up at like 4:30. I usually try and get to the gym before work, and so my shift usually starts at like 6:45, and so I'm usually at the gym at like 5, and so just always been an early bird, and yeah,
That's
I feel like
awesome.
everyone who's successful always is an early bird, and so that's just something I've tried to incorporate into my life.
That's awesome. Yeah, my brother did a full marathon yesterday. I did a half. It was very challenging. I don't know how he. I mean, my brother he didn't train for it. He just did it. The most he'd ever ran before was like I don't know, 15 miles, and he said it was the hardest thing he's ever done, and I believe it.
Yeah.
You see the
How are you?
faces
How are
of
you feeling after your half
I'm re-
marathon?
I'm really sore. I'm not much like he's way more of a runner than I am.
Hmm.
I run every now and then, but I'm really sore. My ass hurts. My cat like below my calves, like not really the calves, like the Achilles, like that's sore.
Hmm.
My hips are sore, but whatever. I went to the gym this morning at 6 and just rolled out and
There you go.
stretched and I did like the assault bike where you pump
Yep.
and like I just did that and listened to podcasts.
Nice, man. I
Yeah.
used to love running. I did a one ultra. So you know the Spartan races.
Ultra.
So an ultra is pretty much anything that's over 26 miles. And
Okay.
so I don't know if you know what Spartan races are. They're
I've
similar
heard of
to,
them.
so they're like those obstacle course races. So
Uh-huh.
there's different increments. There's like a sprint, which is like 5 miles. There's one, the super, which is like 9 miles. There's a beast that's 13, and they have an ultra that's over 26. And so the one that I did was 34 miles.
Damn.
That destroyed me because there's not only are you running and going up like crazy incline, you're doing like 60 obstacles, which includes like jumping over walls, doing rope climbs, just carrying like atlas balls for like 100 yards, many different things. But I'm pretty sure that destroyed my knees, so now I don't really run at all. But
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's the pros and cons. Sometimes they can mess you up. Well, yeah, I have some questions here. I listened to your first podcast, and your 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 parents came from the Philippines. So I wanted to ask about your parents' story coming from the Philippines to the
sure,
U.S. and if you can
yeah.
kind of describe that and how it affected you.
Yeah, so my both my parents were they came from the Philippines here in the early 90s, and it's funny enough the only reason why they came over here was because the volcano erupted. And so my father at the time, he was in the Air Force, and so when the volcano erupted, when they evacuated everyone, they pretty much sent them over here to the West Coast at Travis Air Force Base. And at the time I don't even think I was born yet, but yeah, they had no intention of coming over here. But once they came over here, that's kind of just like they were just forced to.
So so your father was in the Philippine Air Force?
No, so my father was in the U.S. Air Force. So sorry, he was born there, came here when he was a teenager, and then joined the Air Force. Was stationed in the Philippines, but my mom
Got
was
it.
born there and was there at the
Got it.
time.
Okay. All right. So then they came to the U.S. and then tell us about that story.
So once they came to the U.S., yeah, my dad was just in the Air Force. He was pretty much in the Air Force for about 20 years, and then my mom, I think she was like 18 or 19 at the time, and then
Uh-huh.
she eventually had me, and then she became a nurse, and yeah, she was a nurse for a long time, and she still is, but yeah, I eventually came into the picture a couple years later, but
Hmm.
yeah, they came over here essentially when they're in the late teens, early 20s.
Yeah, yeah, I resonated with that because my father, he's from Peru, and he came to I think Santa Monica in like 1978. My dad's like 71, I think 71 or 70.
Hmm.
Yeah, he came to the U.S. with nothing, probably like $500, $1,000, and just kind of did his thing. And now he I think he lived the American dream. Like he started with nothing and just kind of grinded and started a business and had a lot of successes, a lot of failures along the way. But
Mm-hmm.
he's got a really cool story. So that's why I wanted to hear about that.
Nice.
Um, the other thing I also heard was that your parents split. My parents also split when I was really young. So I wanted to know, and then like some sad statistic, it's like 40 or 50% of families split up, like marriages split apart. So I wanted to know if that helped you, if it hurt you, or both. Kind of elaborate on that.
Yeah, so my parents, they divorced when I was 3, and it's weird because I don't really remember anything from that age, but I still kind of remember that night they got divorced, and it was like kind of chaotic, to be honest. But honestly, I think the divorce definitely made me a stronger person
Mm-hmm.
because for many years I would go back and forth between each parent, and so essentially until high school, I would switch schools every single year.
Yeah.
And so my dad, as I mentioned previously, he was in the Air Force. And so I would go from like my mom, where she lived here in California, to like Texas one year. The next year I'd go to Japan. The next year I'd go to Washington. And so I think that allowed me to be very adaptable to like any
Mm-hmm.
situation or environment. And I think it also really forced me to mature at a very young age because I started flying by myself when I was like 8 years old. And so the first time I flew overseas by myself, I was like 12. And then one time when I was flying home from Japan, my flight got delayed or canceled once there was a layover. And so I was pretty much stuck in Japan by myself for like 36 hours at like 13 years old.
Just in the airport.
No, so they helped me get into like a hotel and all that stuff, but it was pretty freaking scary, not gonna
Yeah.
lie.
Yeah.
But but yeah, I think it made me a lot stronger of a person. I think the most resilient people come from kind of like challenges like that early on in life. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think it really helped me to be very independent because a lot of my other siblings, they haven't had any divorce or anything like that. And I could tell that they're a little bit more dependent on my parents.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas myself, I feel very, very independent.
Yeah.
So I don't know how it was for you.
Yeah, it's pretty similar. And not to say like you're not going to be successful if you're unless your parents get split up, but like you can learn a lot from you know any type of experience. It's how you make the most of it. Yeah, my parents split when I was probably like 4 or 5, and they stayed in the same state. My mom moved to like Palm Springs, that area. So, and my dad was still in like Ventura County, Southern California, like near LA. And yeah, every weekend, 2 hours on the 10 going up to Palm Springs on Friday after school, and then Sunday my mom would drive us back to another 2 hours. So I remember that for like probably 3 or 4 years out of my childhood. Um, we switched schools. Not I don't think we switched as many as you did, but like probably like 3 or 4 different school, like from kindergarten to like elementary school. Probably had like 3 schools, which is
Mm,
a lot. Like most kids only have one. Like you have the same group of friends. You're kind of in a routine. So to get thrown around, definitely makes you. It definitely makes you more mature. And I always remember being I always looking back, I definitely feel like I was more grown up than a lot of my peers. My parents were also entrepreneurs. Like I was always kind of hustling with them, like working in the parking lots. My dad has a valet company, and I just remember always like Friday, Saturday nights working in the parking lots, and then like around 11 or 12, then I would go hang out with my friends.
hmm
Like after having some money in my pockets, which looking back, it's nicer. Like I'd rather have money and be able to buy things than be broke and not be able to do shit. So
Yeah, for sure. It taught
yeah,
you how to hustle at a young age.
yeah. So yeah, I like hearing about how people came up and their families and stuff. Um, Second question was, so what made you become a pediatrics nurse? You said your mom's a nurse. Did that have a big influence?
Oh, totally. I mean, it's just a stereotypical Filipino story. So I don't know about in Florida, but here in California, it's like I feel like 50% of nurses are Filipino. And
Mm-hmm.
so funny enough, when I was in high school, I didn't really know what to do. And so my mom's like, all right, you're going to be a nurse. And so she didn't really give me an option. I didn't really know what I was going to do. And so I was just like, sure, whatever. And she was a little nervous because she didn't know if I was going to like it. And then as I went through nursing school, I definitely did enjoy it. I didn't think that I was going to do pediatrics when I first started school. I thought I was going to do something crazy like emergency room or the ICUs. Or I think those are always kind of like the crazy adrenaline rush things you think about when you become a nurse, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then as I went through those rotations, I was like, I fucking hate doing this. And so it was the semester going into my senior year. I volunteered at a pediatric oncology summer camp. And so it was like a summer camp for all kinds of different kids, all different ages who had cancer or was in remission or currently undergoing treatment. And that was just like the best thing because at that time I was only like 20. And so I was a very young student and nurse.
Yeah.
And I was like, honestly, I just feel like I'm a kid also. And so it just felt a lot more easy for me to connect with pediatric patients versus like adults. And so after that summer, then I decided to go to follow pediatrics and go into my like senior year because we have to do like a full semester training in that one specific thing. And I loved it. And so, yeah, that's kind of what led me to go into pediatrics.
So like I have three little kids of my own. My oldest is about to turn 4 this week. It's crazy how quick they grow. So pediatrics, is that anything from like newborn to age 18, or like what age does pediatrics cut off at?
Typically, at least in my hospital, we can still take care of adults because a lot of them had these conditions as a child, and so
Uh-huh.
sometimes it can continue on. But typically, it's usually from like newborn to 18. But we also get stuff like patients until like their like early 20s.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because when I think of like I didn't even know what pediatrics meant until I had a kid, and then but now that I know, when I think of pediatrics, I think it's like 5, 6 years old, but it
Mm-mm.
goes on. Yeah, because that's really cool. I mean, I could see why that would be really inspiring to want to do. You're taking care of these young people, and you want to see them succeed. And how do
Yeah, it's
you
yeah.
go
I was
ahead?
gonna say it's definitely very rewarding because,
Hmm.
I mean, with adults, a lot of these illnesses and chronic conditions that they have is like things that they've done to themselves. So it's like it could be like the
Hmm.
person who's been drinking or smoking their entire life. And
Yeah.
so, whereas these kids, it's like they were born with these conditions and they had no idea or any control over any of these things. And so, to me, that makes it a lot more rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how to like, how do you deal with, because I'm sure you have a lot of successes, but I'm sure there's times when like things don't work out. So how do you get through that and maintain like one for you, so you just like keep your mind right, and then like your peers and like the families that you're working with?
Yeah. So when where I used to work initially when I first graduated nursing school, it was on a cardiac floor, and so it was a lot of patients who were getting ready to get like heart transplants or had any kind of like heart condition, and so those patients were typically there for a really long time. You'd see a lot of the same patients, and I was a bedside nurse, and so I'd really get to know these families, and that was a lot more challenging than my current job in the operating room because in the operating room I really only see them for this very small portion and then they're
Hmm.
gone, right? And so for me now, it's a lot easier for me to kind of like disconnect. And so, um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've always been very good at disconnecting from my job. Like once I leave the hospital, it's kind of just like off my mind, which is I'm very fortunate because I know a lot of the people who I work with or other friends who are nurses, like they can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's just good to just focus on other things that get your mind off of it, like working out or just spending time with family.
Yeah.
But it hasn't really ever been too much of an issue for me, thankfully.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and I mean, it is. I could see how, and that's like any career, like whether you're an ER nurse or surgeon, or there was just something in the news with like the planes crashing. Like that's super stressful. Like anything can be stressful, but I mean, you do have to make sure you're doing things to the best of your abilities, obviously. So definitely try and do that, but you do have to be able to disconnect 100%. Um, the next question I wanted to ask was, so you've been doing nursing for what, like 10, 11 years?
So this year will be year 10.
You're 10? Okay. So what was like the light switch moment? Because it sounds like you're really passionate about real estate. What was the light switch moment when you really got intrigued into like real estate investing and learning?
Yeah, so I think the biggest change for me or epiphany moment was once I got engaged. And so up until that moment, for me, pretty much from like 21 to 28, all I did was party and like go out with friends and just like blow my money. And
Mm-hmm.
then as I started dating my wife, or her at the time was my girlfriend,
Mm-hmm.
I started thinking like, I can't be just blowing all my money anymore. I need to actually start being a little bit more responsible. And so, just like everyone, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and
Mm-hmm.
that was definitely a huge epiphany moment. Also, the book Set for Life by Scott Trench. I don't know if you've read that, but it's like a Bigger Pockets author.
Mm-hmm.
Um, both books just kind of talk about the differences between liabilities and assets, teaching you how to save money, all these different things. And I was like, holy shit, I need to start doing something different.
Yeah.
So I think those were definitely the biggest moments. And then also starting to listen to Bigger Pockets and just hearing the stories of other normal people like us. It
Yeah.
wasn't anyone who was crazy who had like thousands and thousands of units. It's just like people who have normal day jobs who are starting to like make big changes in their life. And that was
Mm-hmm.
very inspiring for me. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, definitely once I got engaged was once I realized I had to get my shit together.
Now, what's your wife's name?
Emily.
Is Emily on the same page as you in terms of like do you guys have the same mindset, or like what's that dynamic like?
She's very supportive. She's
Uh-huh.
definitely never really been into real estate or anything like that. She's in school right now. She's also a nurse, but she is trying to get her nurse practitioner degree, and so she's going to be the advanced care provider. But yeah, she honestly hasn't really had an investing mindset. She's gotten a lot better because now she's like saved up, I don't know, tens of thousands of dollars now, which she could never do before. And so now she has a high yield savings account. And so I think I've definitely had an influence on her, but
Mm-hmm.
she doesn't really have a desire to be in these mastermind calls or anything like that. She's very supportive, which I think is ultimately the most important thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think support is definitely, and it has to be mutual, right? Like I remember you just joined the mastermind community that Rich Somers' seven figure creator mastermind, and then the hotel mastermind. There's a guy also in there. His name is Cassidy Warren, and I had him on our podcast like 7 episodes ago, and he was talking about how it's really important to, if you like for you and me, like we have these high goals and real estate goals and stuff like that. He said that's great to have, but especially like if you have a significant other or you're married, you definitely want to have your spouse. They don't necessarily have to be like totally as inspired as you to like buy all these hotels and stuff, but you have to make sure if you're gonna get all these achievements and stuff that they're not like staying down here as you're going up. So like
Totally.
you guys have to rise together. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean they're analyzing deals. Like it could be something like a vacation or a spa day or whatever. I mean,
Hmm.
you want to make like, and that's something I'm working on too with my wife Megan, because she's at home taking care of all three kids, and it's super stressful with a newborn. Like she can't really, like, even if she wants to leave and go do something for herself, the Isabella, she's a month old, she could be screaming in the back seat going to the nail salon, like screaming there, and then so it's not even a de-stressor.
Yeah.
It's like make sure both parties are winning along the way is
Yeah.
the lesson of the story.
Yeah. You gotta be really proactive and just not reactive. I think for me in the beginning, the challenges that we had was not spending enough time together because I still have the nursing job full time. This is also something I'm doing all the other days I'm off. So it never really feels like a day off anymore. And
Hmm.
so when I first started this, my wife Emily would be like upset that I wasn't spending as much time together. And so now I think you just have to really be proactive. Maybe schedule certain days, like every Friday, non-negotiable, we go out for dinner or something like that.
Hmm.
And I think that's really helpful too. Obviously, I don't have any kids yet, but um, yeah, that's something I've also noticed that's been helpful.
Yeah, that's good. Next question. How's the Bay Area? Like San Francisco? I've been hearing in the news and like, people kind of talking smack about it with like politics and like homeless stuff. Like, but you actually live there. So I want to hear it from somebody that's got boots on the ground.
Yeah, San Francisco's definitely been changing a ton. I mean, with the current interest rate environment, especially with the commercial space, I've seen so many commercial buildings, restaurants, all that stuff shut down. And there's been really, really big businesses like the Macy's Mall and all that in San Francisco is also shut down. There's definitely a lot of homelessness. I don't really go to San Francisco too much. I'm an hour south in San Jose,
Oh,
which
okay.
is a lot. There's a lot more development down here, but
Hmm.
yeah, San Francisco definitely crazy. The market's still very hot. There's just a shortage of houses and not enough demand. Or sorry, there's a very high demand, not enough supply,
Hmm.
and so things are still very, very expensive here.
So you're in San Jose, and that's an hour south of San Fran.
Yeah.
Okay. And what do you see you being there? Like, what do you see like the next 5 years? Do you see it like getting better or worse, or just staying how it is? Like, what do you think needs to happen for like I guess the sounds like San Jose is kind of nice, but like, what about San Francisco? Like, what do you think they need?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like all this has gone down with Governor Newsom, and so I
Hmm.
don't know if there just needs to be a change in office. I mean, I think his term is set to expire or go up next year, and so I know Grant Cardone's making a real big run for California, and so
Hmm.
I don't know if that'll be super helpful. But I think just the change in government will be what will be the deciding factor of what happens, because it seems like a lot of things aren't really happening for the better with him in office.
Yeah. Yeah, it's California. Like, that's one of the when I left California. Like, I'm from Ventura County. Have you ever been to Ventura County?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so I think I listened on your episodes before. You're from Thousand Oaks. My wife and
Yeah.
I we got married in Agora Hills,
Oh, nice. Which venue?
uh, uh, Malibu Lake.
Malibu Lake. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We do valet and shuttles like all the time. So we've definitely worked there. Yeah, that's a beautiful area. Like Thousand Oaks, Westlake Village, Agora, Ventura, Santa Barbara. It's amazing. But
Hmm.
back in 2020 during COVID, we had just moved out of my dad's. I had just gotten out of the Marine Corps like a year prior. We were living at my dad's house to save rent, which was nice. But then after being there for a year, it was like, all right, we got to get the fuck out. So my fiance at the time, Megan, now wife, we got our own apartment and shared it with my brother. Rent was like $3,100 a month before any utilities, before any groceries, before doing anything, and which was fine. Like we understood that and were willing to pay because it was a decent area. And then when COVID happened, everything was shut down. Couldn't do shit. Like, and then we came to Florida for a weekend or for like a week to hang out with some of my wife's family. And there's like all this new construction, and everybody was like, for better or for worse, but like no one was wearing masks. Everyone was doing whatever they wanted to do. Like it was kind of like you make your own decision. You're an adult. Like if you want to risk doing whatever, by all means, as long as you don't, as long as you're not jeopardizing me, then I won't. It's kind of like that vibe.
Hmm.
So that's why we moved to Florida for cost of living and basically freedom.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's
How's it
uh,
been living in Florida?
it's been good. We've been here for 5 years. I mean, if I love California. Like the amenities are great, the restaurants are amazing, the gyms are great, the the weather's perfect most of the time when there's not fires and earthquakes. But yeah, Florida's good. The cost of living now it's gotten more expensive, but when we first came out here, I used my VA loan and bought a house.
Nice.
My mortgage is like $1,800 a month for
Hell yeah.
what is it? 4 bed, 3.5 baths. Like it's 5 years old. It's in a decent area, so that wouldn't have happened in Thousand Oaks. I think the average home price now is probably like 8 or 900,000 for like a
Yeah.
60-year-old home.
It's crazy. It's so crazy. For your VA loan, how much did you put down? Did you have to put like 5% down, or did you have to do zero?
The VA loan was zero down. Yeah,
Nice.
zero down. I have a disability rating with the VA, so they waived the funding fee, which I forget like the exact percentage, but the funding fee is like a small percentage of like the total loan.
Hmm.
So that was waived. And then it was brand new construction, DR Horton. So like there was a lot of closing costs waived, and like fucking new appliances. It was insane. Like we moved in and got a brand new house for I think a couple $1,000 out of pocket.
Damn, that's awesome.
So yeah, and
Well,
that wouldn't have happened had we stayed in California.
yeah. Well, thank you for your service, man.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, everything I have is from my service basically. I did 5 years in the Marine Corps, and I got Pepperdine University covered because of it. I met my wife in Frederick, Maryland, and bought a house plus all the experiences and everything. So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome. I obviously come from a big military family. My brother, he's trying to get into Ranger school, and so
nice.
yeah, my mom was in the Air Force also. So yeah,
Yeah, so you know how it is moving around, and yeah, that's a big thing. You were talking about adaptability. Like in the Marine Corps, you're always getting fucked with. So when you think you have some comfort and like, some like you've kind of made it a little bit, then nope, your duty station changes or you get a new job or, they take something away. So, but it is
hmm
what it is. Like you can cry about it and bitch about it, or you can figure it out and make the best of it. Um, Okay, so next question. What's your are you a big goal setter?
Oh yeah, I set goals daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, quarterly. I try
Okay,
to look at goals pretty often, to be honest.
so what's I don't know if you've done this, but what's your 5 year goal? Do you have like any family goals, real estate goals, career goals?
Yeah, I mean, 5 year goal, probably be out of nursing and doing real estate full time. I would like to do in 3, but 5 is probably
Mm-hmm.
more realistic. Want to have a couple hotels. I definitely want to retire both my parents and my wife so they can do whatever they want to do. My wife is really passionate about women's health, and so I would love for her to be able to do that. I would love to be down in San Diego. That's ultimately where I want to end up at. And
Nice.
then family
Who doesn't
wise,
who doesn't want to be in San Diego?
I know it's the best place, man.
Yeah.
As far as family wise, definitely want to have 2 kids by then. Um, and then what else? Fitness wise, just maintain good health. But yeah, I think ultimately just have a lot more freedom with as far as like time and money wise. Because I love nursing. I think it's a great job, but I feel golden handcuffs to where I'm at. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's just the shitty thing about nursing is where I'm at, we get paid probably the highest out of anywhere in the country. But if I go anywhere else, like LA, for example, our pay is cut in half and the cost of living is essentially the same. And
Mm-hmm.
so we feel pretty much tied to here, which sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's kind of like in real estate, like everyone that has a home right now, it's like trapped equity. Like you can sell your home, but then like what, you're gonna go buy another expensive ass house for
hmm
with a higher rate. Yeah, so real estate wise, what like in 3 5 years, like if what would a perfect ideal situation be like?
Like I said, yeah, just having 1 or 2 hotels, I think would be awesome. I haven't really thought about as far as just like a number per se. Like if I'm making cash flow, I think if I can make what I'm making now and have the freedom to be wherever I want, I think would be great. And so I think if I can cash flow like 300,000, that'd be awesome.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, the hotel thing is definitely on my vision board, big time.
Yeah. Now, what got you interested into hotels? Because I before like 4 months ago, I was in the mindset of like uh, just acquiring like Airbnbs because we're in St. Augustine, Florida. Airbnb market is really popular here. So really, I mean, like I don't know why that mindset I had because you're kind of just dealing with more competition. But like, what got you interested in the hotels?
The hotel thing, I mean, I've just always loved hotels, and so I've traveled a lot from a very young age. And ever since I was young, I've just always been fascinated by staying in really nice hotels, boutique hotels. And there's this really cute bed and breakfast that's like a 12 unit, kind of like motel thing in Carmel. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
a place where I took my wife for like our first getaway. It's where I took us when we first got engaged. This was just like a very special place. I was always like, if I could own something like that, that'd be great. And coming from a nursing background, I've always had a passion for hospitality. And so I always love going out of my way to make sure patients have the best experience. And so I think that really translates to real estate also. And
Mm-hmm.
like regular multifamily, just having just regular residential rentals, that doesn't really get me excited. I love having really good experiences from guests. Like me and my mom, we just launched our first Airbnb last year, and since then we've had all 5-star reviews, and we love just making sure everyone has the best time.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as like hotels specifically, I think just following Rich Summers has really changed my opinion about everything. Also, I've been following him since late 2022, and just everything that everyone talks about, just being able to scale a lot easier, is a lot more intriguing and eye-catching than anything else. And I think, to your point earlier when you said you didn't know why there's a shift in mindset, I think we just don't know what we don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now when we're surrounded by all these different people, I think that's really opened our eyes to the things that can come from these boutique hotels and just being able to scale now. It's like now also I'm at a place in my life where it's like I don't want to focus on anything unless it's scalable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, my brother and I, he just walked into the office. We have similar, I feel like we have similar mindsets, like and similar stories. Like my mom, she manages our Airbnbs. Like my brother and I, we bought 2 triplexes, and she's like, she has basically her own property management company, like for short-term rentals. So
Mm-hmm.
she manages, the day-to-day stuff, like with housekeeping and
Guest
maintenance
communication.
and guest communication. Yeah, she's a super host on Airbnb.
Nice.
So she's our mom, so she's not like we're more tech savvy than her, so we kind of help her with that from time to time. But she has an eye for design and just like always taking care of the guests, which she's much better at than we are. And she's also like my brother and I. We're not handy at all. Like I can screw in a light bulb. That's pretty much it. But she's actually really handy. Like she knows how to level things and paint and do all this stuff that so she loves. So we're good. Basically, what I'm trying to say is we're a good partnership, and it sounds like you and your mom are also.
Oh yeah, she's my biggest fan and my greatest business partner. So she wants to do the hotel stuff really bad also. So
Nice.
she's just like, you go figure it out, and then I'll support you however I can. So
cool. Nice. Fitness wise, so you said you work out like 5-6 times a week?
Yeah, 6 days a week.
Just the home gym? You go to Equinox? Yeah, what gym do you go to?
Right now I go to 24 Hour Fitness.
Okay.
So I usually, just like I said, go in the mornings, but I would love to get to Equinox at some point. But yeah, they're building a Lifetime Fitness pretty close to my house in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about Lifetime. My cousin, she goes to one in Minnesota, and she said it's like massive. They have pools, pickleball, steam rooms, saunas, everything. So
yeah, those really nice clubs are super super awesome, and I think if you can go there, maybe you'll meet like higher net worth people,
sure.
better people who are higher in life, and so I would love to get to one. But the ones around me, they just open at weird times, and so for me, I have to be at the gym at like 4:35, and a lot of them don't open till like 6, and so that's another thing that's the issue.
That's a good point. I remember when there was an Equinox in Westlake Village, so like I would go work out there, shower, and then go to Pepperdine for school. But I remember, like they didn't open till like 5:30, or like some people have to be at the gym at 4, so that obviously that won't work out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. What are the? I know you mentioned a couple books for those listening that are interested in some good real estate books or like mindset books. What would you recommend? What's like the most inspiring ones that you've taken on?
Just honorable mention, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Everyone talks about that, so I don't want to talk about that too much. But Scott Trench, his book Set for Life is a really good one. It kind of it doesn't give you the how-tos or go through the A through Z of how to do things, but it just kind of talks about all the different ways you can increase your net worth, focusing on IRAs, house hacking, all that different stuff, kind of like overview basics. Another really good book I read recently was the book by Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've read that book, but that pretty much talks about how to scale and buy back your time and just really focus your time on the things that bring in the most amount of revenue and just hire out for everything else. And so that's really got me thinking about a lot of different things, also like tasks, even just like cooking. So for me now, I just use a meal prep service because I'd much rather be watching videos from all these past recordings or analyzing deals instead of spending a couple hours doing dishes and cooking. Mm-hmm. And so just really trying to focus my time on the most high level things. I think that was been a really, really good book. And now I'm reading 10X is Easier Than 2X, which is what I think Cassidy recommended. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I read, those are great recommendations. I've read all of those except for Set for Life. I just finished 10X is Easier Than 2X like a couple weeks ago. Excellent book. And it's not for everyone. Like you have to have this really, high level mindset, like in aspirations for it to resonate. But if you have that, which sounds like, both of us do, then it's definitely for us. And Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell is really great.
Another book is, I don't know if you've read The Power of Now. It's not about real estate or anything like that, but it focuses on mindset. And that's been something that's good for me because I feel, especially us as real estate investors, we're always focused on the future, and we're always trying to, even though we realize it or not, we compare ourselves to others. And I think a lot of times I'm thinking to myself, I'm not happy until I reach X or whatever, right? And so The Power of Now is exactly what it sounds like. Just focusing on the moment, being happy with everything that you have, because I think that's really important too. And so,
yeah. Once you're done reading 10X is Easier Than 2X, you got to get Who, Not How. And then I'm about to finish that one. And then I'm going to read The Gap and The Gain. That's like, there's like 3 to the series. And then you were just talking about like the process. I listened to this guy his name's Ed Miletz. Have you ever heard of him?
Oh yeah.
He's actually like down the street, like in Ponte Vedra, Florida, like 30 minutes away. I didn't even know that until I just started listening to him like last week. Super inspiring and like emotional, like, so, and I really like that kind of stuff. So
have you read his book, The Power of One More, yet?
No, I haven't. The Power of One More.
That was a really good one too.
I heard clips, like his dad was like an alcoholic or whatever, and I heard clips of it, but
premise is Power of One More with anything. So with your one relationship, one handshake away, one action from changing your life. And so just keep doing one more thing, even when you don't want to. It's kind of like very similar to Atomic Habits. But so for instance, if you're just like, I don't really want to go to this meetup today, but you end up going, you could meet your potential business partner. And so it just talks about just like keep doing one more of anything.
Yeah. I think I just did an Instagram reel the other day, and it was just talking about like little things like working out early, ideally, educating yourself, whether it be books, podcasts, mentorships, coaching, whatever. And then just, consistency. Like, I feel like how old are you? You're,
I'm turning 32 in May.
32. Okay. I'm 29. I turned 30 in May. Yeah. So I feel like a lot of people our age, they're really they want to get things quick and, now, which I get it. Like, it's nice to have shit fast, but it's all about getting like the process, because that's what's the most satisfying. And then once you have it, it's like, oh yeah, no shit. I mean, I did it for 1,000 days. It was bound to come, but the journey is what is really cool. And that's what you remember. Yeah.
I agree.
Well, cool, man. I don't have anything else. This was fun. Thanks for jumping on.
Thanks for having me, man. This is awesome. Yeah. I hope I have some inspiration or value to bring to any of the listeners.
Yeah, I think you for sure will. How can if people want to listen to your podcast or check you out on social media, whatever, how should they find you?
Yeah, so you guys can find me on Instagram. It's Lorenzo, Lorenzo Mercado, Mercado _. And then my podcast is The Lowdown, as Johnny said earlier. It's just THE low, LO -down. I'm on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and I'm also on YouTube. So check me out.
Awesome, man. Yeah, well, I'll see you in our mastermind calls this week. And thank you so much for coming on. It was a wealth of knowledge, and I hope you have an amazing week.
Thanks, Johnny. Appreciate it.
See you, Lorenzo.